matter how tense it is, violence at a place of worship is never permissible. I understand that we have the right to protest in Canada, but no one should feel intimidated.
3 people have been arrested as Peel police continue to investigate alleged violence outside a Hindu temple in Brampton yesterday. Good afternoon. The inciting incident happened outside the Hindu Sabha temple in Brampton yesterday afternoon.
Police say arrests were made after protesters moved to 2 separate locations in Mississauga. CTV's Rahim Ladani has been following this story and joins us live with more. Rahim.
Nathan and Michelle, good afternoon. We do want to warn our viewers that some of the video we're about to show, some may find it disturbing. This is video that has been circulating on social media since yesterday, and it shows fistfights taking place and also people being hit with flags and sticks. The violence taking place outside the Hindu Sabha temple in the northeast end of Brampton Sunday afternoon. 6 separatists were protesting a visit by Indian consular officials to the temple who were there to help people with accessing services. Demonstrators could be seen holding banners in support of the Khalistan movement that is seeking to create a separate sovereign state for Sikhs within India's Punjab province. Peel Regional Police were able to break up the protest, but say demonstrators moved to 2 different locations in Mississauga. 3 people were arrested and charged, while an officer sustained minor injuries. Here's more from Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown.
I hope that those responsible are held fully accountable. And I think that will be a chilling effect for those that want to copycat this incident. There are limits to the right to protest. It does not include violence. It does not include intimidation.
Now, all levels of government within Canadian officials are condemning the act, as is India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. He actually responded on social media calling the demonstrators cowards. Now, Mayor Patrick Brown said that he's going to be looking forward to potentially creating a bylaw that would prohibit protesting outside places of worship. The city solicitor is now looking into the legality of that. Reporting live, I'm Rahim Ladani. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Rahim. The Prime Minister and other federal party leaders released statements about the incident yesterday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted on social media, "The acts of violence at Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton today are unacceptable. Every Canadian has the right to practice their faith freely and safely. Thank you to the Peel Regional Police for swiftly responding to protect the community and investigate this incident."
Conservative Party leader Pierre Poilievre also wrote on social media, "Completely unacceptable to see violence targeting worshippers at the Hindu Sabha Mandir in Brampton today. All Canadians should be free to practice their faith in peace. Conservatives condemn this violence unequivocally. I will unite our people and end the chaos."
Meanwhile, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh wrote, "Every Canadian must be free to visit their place of worship in peace. I unequivocally condemn the acts of violence at the Hindu Sabha Mandir. Violence anywhere is wrong. I join community leaders in calling for peace."
In other news, 3 people were sent to hospital following a 2-vehicle crash in Brampton. This happened shortly after 5 p.m. yesterday near James Potter Road and Bonnie Braes Drive. Paramedics say 1 person suffered serious leg injuries, while 2 other people were taken to hospital with minor injuries. The cause of the crash is still unknown.
Meanwhile, 3 people were injured after a crash in North York last night. It happened near Don Mills and Lawrence shortly before 9. One of the vehicles flipped over. All of the injuries were described as minor. Both drivers involved remain at the scene. The cause of the crash is still under investigation. And a second collision in North York saw an SUV flip onto its roof following a 2-vehicle crash in the area of Victoria Park and York Mills Road. Paramedics say 1 person was taken to hospital with minor injuries, and the cause of this crash is still under investigation.
The mayor joined Toronto Police this morning to kick off Crime Prevention Week.
Each year, we mark this week to keep crime prevention top of mind. And this year's theme is Awareness in Action.
As a police service, our #1 job is to keep people safe. This means making arrests, going after criminals, and importantly, it also means focusing on prevention. Crime prevention is a shared responsibility, and Crime Prevention Week is an opportunity to ask residents to get involved.
The week-long initiative getting underway at Jane Finch Mall this morning. It's being supported by the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as the Ministry of the Solicitor General.
Voters are heading to the polls today in the by-election in Ward 15, Don Valley West.
They will be choosing their next city councillor after the seat was left vacant following the death of Jay Robinson earlier this year. CTV's Natalie Johnson has been following the race closely. She joins us live with the latest on Election Day. Natalie.
Hi, Michelle. Well, sometimes municipal by-elections can be low-key or even sleepy affairs, but this one is one that is being watched very carefully by a lot of people at City Hall, and that is because of the implications it may have on the broader political landscape there. It all has to do with who is running in this by-election. Anthony Furey, who at one point at least was considered the front-runner in this Ward 15 race, is a former mayoral candidate. He mounted a strong campaign in the mayoral by-election. He does not live in the ward, but he is vying for this council seat, saying he wants to represent Don Valley West. His opponents, and there are 16 people in total on this ballot, have alleged that he is simply trying to gain a foothold at Toronto City Hall to further his own mayoral ambitions in 2026. Many of them have now coalesced their vote around Rachel Chernoss-Lynn in an effort to stop Furey. Rachel Chernoss-Lynn is a TDSB trustee who has served as chair of the board for the last 2 years. She's currently taken a leave of absence from that position during the campaign. She does live in the ward and is arguing to voters that she will be a steward of local issues and will be focused on things like traffic, infrastructure, many of the issues that Don Valley West voters care about. Furey, for his part, says he grew up nearby. He's got a lot of care for residents of this ward, and even if he does want to run for mayor in 2026, he would have to do a good job here locally in order to maintain that support moving forward. Here is more of what Rachel Chernoss-Lynn and Anthony Furey had to say about that this morning.
But it's just the momentum was building as we got out to more and more places. You know, I've never run for mayor, so I didn't have the same name recognition as my main opponent, you know, who is a Toronto, you know, he's got a big media presence and social media presence. I didn't have that, but what I did have was experience. And as our message was getting out and we got to more and more doors, you could just feel this groundswell.
Look, I'm looking forward to working with everyone to bring about positive change for the residents of Don Valley West and everyone in this city. And Olivia, the mayor, and I may not agree on every little policy issue, but she's a good person and I get along with her. So when I agree with her, we're going to work together for the residents. And when I voice a disagreement, well, you know, I think that's going to happen as well. So there we go.
And so there are indications that this race has really tightened over the last number of weeks. The liaison poll from about 2 weeks ago indicated that Anthony Furey had about a 5-point lead over Rachel Chernoss-Lynn. But that was before Chernoss-Lynn received the endorsement of some very high-profile politicians, including former Premier Kathleen Wynne, who is a heavy hitter in Don Valley West. Reason to believe that those poll numbers have tightened according to internal polling over the last few days. So the candidates do know that every vote will count here. The polls are open here in Don Valley West until 8 p.m. Reporting live, I'm Natalie Johnson. Nathan and Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Natalie. And still to come on CTV News at noon, it is the final day of campaigning south of the border. We'll have more on the candidates' final push to get out the vote.
City staff have come up with a plan to incentivize the construction of 20,000 new rental homes in Toronto. If approved, the plan would create a new incentive program to help spur construction of purpose-built rentals. The city would then agree to defer development charges for the rental homes indefinitely at a cost of roughly $210 million. Mayor Olivia Chow's executive committee set to consider the plan at a meeting this week. However, it would still need to go to City Council at a later date.
Parking on city streets could cost drivers more next year. The Toronto Parking Authority is proposing a 25-cent increase for more than 20,000 metered parking spaces. The increase is outlined in the agency's budget report. It will be considered by the city's audit committee this coming week. If approved by City Council, drivers could pay as much as $6.75 per hour to park in high-demand areas.
And a reminder to subway riders about some service changes this week. Beginning tonight and continuing through Friday, train service on Line 2 will end at 11 p.m. between Kipling and Keele stations. The change is to accommodate planned track work. Shuttle buses will be running instead. Subway service will resume at 6 the following morning. Taylor Swift is set to arrive in Toronto later this month for 6 shows at the Rogers Centre as part of her Eras Tour.
The city is rolling out the red carpet for the pop star, even renaming a street in her honor. CTV's Sean Leatham has been following the developments and joins us live with the details. Sean.
Well, Michelle and Nathan, I'm standing on Taylor Swift Way. What is Taylor Swift Way for the brief future? You can see the sign right about here over my shoulder. The street being renamed that for Taylor Swift, connecting the Rogers Centre to City Hall, but it's for a charitable purpose, not just for the actual singer herself. Now, the reason that they're doing this, and it was actually the idea of Deputy Mayor Jennifer McKelvey, is that these signs are going up throughout the city, as I said, connecting the route from the Rogers Centre to City Hall. There are 22 of these signs that will be auctioned off, and the proceeds of those will be donated to charity. Now, the first auction beginning with the sign that is behind me, coming up this coming week, and then every week, therefore, until the concert, they will have more auctions. Now, we do know that the donations will be matched by Rogers, who is actually putting up the money for the signs, up to $113,000. You see the 22 signs, the 13, it's a bunch of numbers that have to do with Taylor Swift, her lucky number 13, 22, one of her hit songs. We know that they are rolling out the red carpet for her, but they wanted to be able to connect with charity. This morning, the announcement, Olivia Chow talked about the ability to use Taylor Swift's universal appeal to connect with charity, and Neil Hetherington from the Daily Bread Food Bank to talk about just how much the need is in the city right now.
Taylor Swift has a magical way to connect people around the world. Her music unites us. Her lyrics and music touch us deeply, and even her cats connect us. It is only fitting that Toronto connects her event team and the fans through the Taylor Swift way.
Right now in Toronto, 1 in 10 Torontonians is having to make use of the Daily Bread Food Bank. They're having to make use of food charity. And in a city as wonderful as ours is, that shouldn't be the case. And so we have a choice of wallowing in those difficult numbers. We're doing something about it. And I'm delighted that the city has stepped forward to do something about it.
Now, they're making sure that these signs are up high because they don't want any of them to be stolen. They, of course, are going to become very valuable as they're expecting big numbers for them to come up. The first Taylor Swift show is, of course, here at the Rogers Centre on November 14th. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathon. Nathan Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. We got more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. We are overcast today. There's a chance of showers here and there, so an umbrella is not a bad idea. Tomorrow, we go way above seasonal, but we do drop down. It's not a dramatic plunge, though. Let's take a look at the current conditions. We do have rain in some areas, especially to the north of us, and it's just sort of rotting through the city, so bear that in mind. Right now, we're sitting at 14 in London, 14 in Hamilton, 15 in Niagara Falls, so we are well above seasonal, although it is much cooler north of us. Looking at current conditions at the islands, we're at 13 degrees, Pearson Airport 13, and again, there's that chance of rain. We'll give you a look at the long-range forecast a little bit later on in the show.
A number of issues are up for discussion at Queen's Park this week, ranging from the Greenbelt to support for veterans.
CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has more on what's on the agenda.
Order. An old scandal, but tensions are still strong around the removal of land from the Greenbelt, how the plan was pulled together behind the scenes. Back in focus is Ryan Amato, ex-chief of staff to the then Minister of Housing. There are ongoing questions about his use of private email to carry out government business.
Everything points to the use of personal emails to get around FOI requests. Amato even infamously asked in a handwritten note, "Is this FOI-able?"
Amato resigned in the summer of 2023 as the Greenbelt plan unraveled. The government says it will do what it can to get him to turn records over.
We have zero tolerance for any wrongdoing and expect anyone involved in the decision-making about the Greenbelt lands
Position side, come to order.
The letter of the law.
This afternoon, the government will introduce a bill to honor those who've served our country.
In order to better recognize the contributions that veterans have made both during and after their service, we are proposing to rename Remembrance Week to Remembrance Day and Veterans Week.
The bill will also include a collaboration with the Royal Canadian Legion on an award.
This would be a first-of-its-kind provincial recognition in Ontario, specifically celebrating veterans who have made significant contributions in their communities.
Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
There are ongoing talks to try and avoid work stoppage at Canada Post. The Crown indicated yesterday both it and the union representing the workers have agreed not to issue a 72-hour strike or lockout notice as long as talks remain productive. The Canadian Union of Postal Workers has been in a legal strike position since Sunday. Canada Post presented its latest contract offer last week. The union says the two sides remain far apart.
The leader of the federal Conservatives has written a letter to Canada's premiers. Pierre Poilievre is asking them to eliminate their sales taxes on new homes that were sold for under $1 million. The Tory leader made that same pledge last week if he is elected prime minister. Poilievre says he would pay for the tax cut by scrapping liberal housing policies and says provincial sales taxes also significantly increase the cost of homes.
The race to the White House has entered its final day, with the candidates making a last-ditch effort to sway voters who may still be undecided.
Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have busy schedules aiming to maintain momentum before voters head to the polls tomorrow. CTV's chief political correspondent Vassy Kapelos has more from Washington.
Well, each of the candidates have a busy final day of campaigning, and it's where they'll be campaigning, that really indicates to us what this election will come down to. At the national level, they're so close in polling that the lead that Kamala Harris has over Donald Trump is so razor thin, it's fully within the margin of error. In the 7 key swing states, which will ultimately determine the outcome of this election, is where we find the candidates campaigning today. And in particular, one I've got my eye on, that's the state of Pennsylvania. There are 19 electoral college votes. Both candidates each have 2 rallies apiece. In that state today, that state went for Donald Trump by 0.7%. In 2016, for Joe Biden by 1.2% in 2020. So you can see why they're campaigning there today and why the stakes are just so incredibly high. They're also very high for Canada. I spoke with the U.S. ambassador to Canada under Donald Trump, Kelly Craft, over the weekend, who told me that defense spending would have to go much faster, and there has to be much more defense spending on Canada's part in order to curry any favor with Donald Trump should he become president again. So lots to watch for from a Canadian perspective, not just on the defense file, but of course on the economic file as well. 3/4 of our exports go to one single destination, and that's the United States of America. I'm Vassy Kapelos reporting for CTV News in Washington, D.C.
And for more on the race for the White House, we're joined live by CTV's Scott Hurst. Scott, obviously Canadians are keeping a close eye on this. What could affect what effect could a Trump win have?
Nathan, I could pick up a little bit on the economy that Vassy touched on a little bit. Of course, defense spending, a big issue for Donald Trump. But so many Canadians are wondering, whoever wins the White House, what will it mean for us and our economy? Because, of course, as Vassy did mention, our economies are so closely tied. The U.S. is not just our closest ally, but also our largest trading partner. Now, we saw in a first Trump presidency, it was quite a roller coaster for U.S.-Canada trade relations. The former U.S. president really shook things up by pushing to replace NAFTA and imposing hefty tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel during negotiations. Trump, if re-elected, has already signaled he plans to revisit the USMCA agreement and trigger a 6-year review built into the original language, and that will be right in the middle of a second or potentially a next presidential term. Trump says if he has this chance to renegotiate part of the USMCA agreement, he wants better protection and to promote the U.S. auto industry amongst other major industries. And the former U.S. president does have a long track record of promoting protectionism and tariffs. And so a lot of Canadians are wondering what a second Trump presidency would mean. And, you know, a lot of experts are wondering it could be similar to the first Trump presidency, which was quite a rocky road and ultimately quite a roller coaster for Canada-U.S. trade relations, Nathan.
And what about a possible Harris victory? What could that mean for this country?
Potentially, a lot of experts are assuming that a Harris presidency would be a lot of the status quo that we've seen over the last couple of years, very similar to the Joe Biden presidency. But there are also still lots of questions about trade protectionism as well, just a different degree and potentially different angle. Kamala Harris has expressed dissatisfaction with the massive North American trade deal, and she was one of a few senators who voted against it originally despite bipartisan support, and she may also revisit some sort of renegotiation. Harris argued originally that the North American trade deal doesn't go far enough to address issues of climate change. So both candidates have been promoting protectionist economic policies. Another question about a Kamala Harris presidency, she is, of course, more of an environmental advocate than Donald Trump, and so that has many on this side of the border, Nathan, wondering about what that would mean specifically when it comes to resource development and many massive Canadian industries that rely on resource-based, basically a resource-based economy. So lots of questions about a Harris presidency on that note as well, Nathan.
All right, CTV's Scott Hurst on the race to the White House. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan.
And take note, CTV News Channel will have special coverage on election night tomorrow, led by our chief anchor and senior editor, Omar Sachedina, starting at 7 p.m. Eastern. To the Middle East, where medics say Israeli airstrikes killed at least 12 Palestinians in the Gaza Strip today. Several people were injured in the attacks. The health ministry in Gaza says there are no ambulances or emergency crews left operating in the far north of the territory. It is in areas where Israel has intensified its operations in recent weeks. The last 3 hospitals, still partially functioning in northern Gaza, have been encircled by Israeli troops and caught amid fighting for weeks. The director of one of them said the facility was directly targeted. Israel says Hamas uses hospitals as command and control bases.
Palestinians in the occupied West Bank say they're contending with the aftermath of a settler attack, which set several vehicles on fire. This is just one of several acts of settler violence in the occupied West Bank, which has drawn international condemnation, including from the U.S. The recent incident happened on the outskirts of Ramallah, where around 20 cars were set on fire.
Meantime, the Israeli military says it killed a senior Hezbollah commander in southern Lebanon. Riyad Rida Ghazawi is said to have been a part of the anti-missile tank unit with Hezbollah's elite Radwan forces. Hezbollah has yet to comment on the news. Lebanese Canadians are calling on Ottawa for more help to get their family out of Lebanon.
Critics are taking aim at the federal government, pointing to Canada's response in helping refugees from Ukraine and other countries. CTV's Camille Karamali reports.
As Israeli strikes continue to decimate neighborhoods in Lebanon, the number of displaced now surpassing 1 million.
So they're wondering what comes next.
Lebanese in Canada are growing frustrated, not knowing what to tell family members of Canadians looking to flee.
They've been trying to apply for visitor visas for their immediate family members, their spouses, their kids to come with them, but they're being refused. And then when they contact the embassy, they're being told, we can help you get seats, but we can't help you get status.
Last week, Ottawa announced it would allow Lebanese nationals and their families who've already left Lebanon to extend their stay in Canada and apply for work permits. But that still leaves tens of thousands in Lebanon still looking to come to Canada for safety. They say the immigration process is too limited and difficult to navigate compared to those in place for other countries caught in conflict.
It was quicker, more transparent, more concise, more flexible.
When Russia invaded Ukraine, Canada allowed an unlimited number of Ukrainians to escape the war and live in Canada for up to 3 years. This Liberal member of Parliament has been pushing her own party to implement those same emergency measures for Lebanese people.
We have done special measures programs previously, like we have done for Ukraine, we have done for Afghanistan. We did some for Sudan.
The immigration minister's office says it would be inaccurate to compare different programs as geopolitical realities vary. Critics argue otherwise.
Treat all the communities equitably and fairly. They say that is discriminatory.
The federal government's promise to match donations made by the public in support of Lebanon, set to expire today, has now been extended by 2 more weeks in hopes more people will donate. But the same people receiving those funds are continuing to hope for a gateway to safety. Kamal Karamali, CTV News, Toronto.
As Remembrance Day approaches, people across the country are already paying tribute to soldiers and veterans.
One Alberta man is hoping a commemorative crosswalk will serve as a symbol of gratitude. CTV's Kathy Lee has the details.
The days leading up to Remembrance Day are marked by poignant gestures, honoring the fallen soldiers and those still serving.
People may not say anything, but they know that because of them we have what we have today.
The respect to them is paid at a field of crosses, commemorating the more than 3,500 Southern Albertans who made the ultimate sacrifice.
This is a great way to remind ourselves and teach our youth and all the kids how to pay tribute.
And beyond this powerful tribute, another way to remember. The ask to the city of Calgary is for this crosswalk to become a canvas of gratitude.
The hope to connect the communities with veterans and the opportunity to pay back.
And paying back in a permanent way, well after Remembrance Day is over.
That's what's key, is just keep the conversation about the men and women who've served this country at the forefront of every discussion all year round.
This is shaping out to be quite a memorable Remembrance Day.
The unique nod to veterans recently adorned the street in Chatham-Kent, Ontario, near the cenotaph, where pedestrians have been traversing the artistic tribute.
It means a lot to the veterans. Like I said, I've seen a couple of my people out here looking at it today. I walked in that branch yesterday, and that's all I heard was, they got it up, man, they got it up.
And in Stony Creek, Ontario, a colorful salute to veterans at this crossing. The hope these pieces lead to action.
Pick up the phone and maybe, reach out to Veteran Food Bank, the Home for Heroes, the Legions, and say, what can I do?
And to ensure the younger generation never forget each time they cross the street. Kathy Lee, CTV News, Calgary.
Looking at the forecasts, cloudy skies, rain possible in some areas, but not a washout. This afternoon will be comfortable, above seasonal. We warm up tonight and tomorrow, and we stay above seasonal for the week as we adjust to this time change. A look at the long-range forecast after the break.
Well, here we are into the first full week of November, and I got to say it feels pretty mild out there. It's dark, but I think now that we're into this time of year, we're anticipating when we go down to do the news at 6 tonight, it's just going to be dark outside because we fell back over the weekend. This is how it is.
Yeah, so I guess I'm still adjusting to the time change, kind of fooling myself because some of the clocks fell back, but the one in my car didn't.
It didn't?
So that kind of threw me off. I thought, maybe, am I going to be late for the first time ever?
Nathan's never late.
I'm always here early. So that worked out. And we're still above seasonal. And what surprises me about this week is tomorrow. We're going to be at a high of 22 degrees. So I'm expecting this warm spell to end, but it seems like we're almost getting into, mid-November, and it's not ending. Anyway, let's look at the satellite radar right now. You can see there's rain going through the city, just in certain spots, mainly to the north of us. Right now, we're sitting at 13 degrees, 20 in Windsor, so above seasonal, except far north of us. The high for today is well above seasonal, 15 degrees in Toronto, 13 in Peterborough, 16 in Waterloo. And the lows above seasonal as well. We should be around +3. We're going to be at 15 degrees tonight, and that warm-up will continue. And looking at the forecast radar, the rain's going to move through, and there's a possibility of showers for tonight as well. For tomorrow, we're going up to 22 degrees, which is incredible. And then Wednesday, there's a chance of showers, but then we get some sunshine Thursday and Friday, but more seasonal as the week winds down. So overall, it's a pretty good week. The data circle might be Tuesday with that high of 22 degrees. We'll give you a recap of the forecast a little bit later on in the show.
But now we turn to sports, and the Raptors will be looking for a second straight win when they take on the Denver Nuggets tonight.
Fox, job by Brady. Here's RJ. Lays it up and through, plus the foul.
The Raps are coming off that 131-128 overtime win over the Sacramento Kings on Saturday. Vince Carter's number 15 jersey was retired at halftime during the game. The team is back on the court to face the Nuggets tonight at 10 p.m. in Denver.
Maple Leafs faced off against the Minnesota Wild last night.
Here's Spurgeon's in. Goldie, Rossi, and he came on that. Doby pushing it ahead. And Spurgeon got back, and it's the other way. Goldie all alone scores.
The game went to overtime with the Wild coming out on top. The Leafs will be back on the ice tomorrow to take on the Boston Bruins.
Blue Jays outfielder Dalton Varsho has won his first career Gold Glove Award.
And here's one into left center field. On comes Varsho, and he made the catch.
Varsho won the American Gold Glove Award for center field. He led all players this season with 29 defensive runs saved. This is the second straight year a Blue Jays outfielder has won this award, with Kevin Kiermaier taking home the trophy last year.
Still to come, remembering Quincy Jones. The iconic music producer has died at the age of 91. We'll have more on his life and legacy when we come back. As we mentioned earlier, Taylor Swift and her legions of fans are just weeks away from arriving in Toronto.
2 recently wrapped up concerts in Indianapolis, and CTV's Alison Bamford got a first-hand look at what our city can expect.
This is downtown Indianapolis, but for the weekend, it's Swift City, and it's leaving big shoes for Toronto to fill.
It's like a whole different culture and vibe.
Everywhere you look, signs big and small that Taylor Swift is in town. Friendship bracelets passed around, elaborate outfits, and sequins everywhere. Indianapolis planned for 200,000 visitors. Some even made the trip without the guarantee of seeing the show. You don't have tickets then, right?
No, no, but we're just here to experience all the festivities.
The tourism industry prepared for more than a year,
If you go up this street,
orchestrating dozens of Swift-themed events over the last 3 days.
I really encourage our Canadian markets who get to have Taylor Swift next to embrace it. It's an incredible opportunity for a city to shine and be on a national, international spotlight, and all of the attention that Taylor Swift brings.
Indianapolis, Indiana, welcome to the Eras Tour!
Swift's 3 sold-out shows are expected to inject hundreds of millions of dollars into Indy's economy.
It is, in every sense, an economic boom for Indianapolis.
Local businesses are hoping to benefit. Inside the city's oldest steakhouse, cooks are ready for their busiest weekend of the year.
I can seat, I think, 500 people at a pop. I'm hoping to do that many, many times over.
Around the stadium, police have streets blocked off to traffic. Not a problem for fans traveling by foot, but after the concert, gridlock.
it's part of the experience.
Taylor Swift in the car on the way back to the hotel, it's gonna be fun.
And for hundreds of officers, they're working to keep everyone safe.
This is not a rowdy crowd. They have caused zero problems. Us interacting with them is a deterrent, but it also makes people feel good when they know that there's lots of police presence.
In 2 weeks, Swifties will take over Toronto, then Vancouver, bringing with them the same energy. Cities say they're ready for it. Alison Bamford, CTV News, Indianapolis.
The entertainment world is mourning the loss of iconic music producer Quincy Jones.
He worked with the biggest names in music, from Frank Sinatra to Michael Jackson. CTV's Andrea Case joins us with more on his life and legacy. Hard to recap his life, really, in a few minutes.
It is, Nathan and Michelle, but I've got 2 minutes and 34 seconds, so I'm going to give it a try. Yeah, the scope of Quincy Jones's musical routine touched this very building. Some of our viewers may remember the TV game show Definition.
In 1963, at the age of 30, this was the first of dozens of memorable hit songs Quincy Delight Jones produced over his 70-year career. Born in Chicago in 1933, Jones was a trumpet player turned composer, working with countless musicians and artists.
Fly me to the moon.
And we had the best time. It's like being on another planet with him. Frank would say, Q, live every day like it's the last, and one day you'll be right.
Chum FM's Jamar McNeil recalls a story of their close relationship.
He loved the orchestra, and had it not been for people like Frank Sinatra, they gave him a shot. You know, Quincy Jones was told that a black man couldn't produce or even write for strings. Frank Sinatra gave him a shot, and he said, when they went on tour and he wasn't allowed to tour with him and go into certain clubs, he said, if he can't come in, I'm not coming in.
From Old Blue Eyes to the King of Pop. Michael Jackson's second solo album, Thriller, is the best-selling album of all time, and it paved the way for black artists on the pop charts. Jones teamed up with Jackson again for the fundraising record We Are the World for famine relief in Ethiopia.
I like to think about the studio as a place that's real sacred, you know, where magical things happen. Hopefully, you know, that's what great records are supposed to be about.
On the small and big screen, he produced The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. He produced the film The Color Purple, but received an Oscar for his lifetime achievement. Winning 28 Grammys, he was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for his exemplary contribution to music. Iconic Canadian musician and photographer Bryan Adams had the good fortune to spend some time with the music legend at his home during a photo session.
He said, hey, man, you know, come over here and check this out. And so we went into this room, and it was like he had a cinema. He had like a cinema room, you know. You can watch movies. And we sat down. He said, you know, and he started to tell me about Ray Charles and Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson and all the different bands he'd worked with and the singers. And I was just sitting there like, whoa, this is incredible to have this moment to talk to him.
Quincy Jones was a survivor. He suffered 2 brain aneurysms in 1974 that almost killed him, but he went right back to work. The father of 7 died last night with his family by his side. Quincy Jones was 91.
Okay, so what I was saying earlier is that the show Definition was shot just down the hall here. Some of you may remember that game show. Well, the theme song, that was by Quincy Jones. In an interview with Larry King on CNN some years ago, Jones said he would never retire because of retirement. You say you travel and you do what you want to do. And he said, I'm already doing that. Quincy Jones was 91. I'm Andrea Case for CTV News. Michelle, I'll send it back to you.
Thanks, Andrea. Former Dawson's Creek star James Van Der Beek is opening up about a health battle. The 47-year-old actor has announced he's been diagnosed with colorectal cancer. Van Der Beek says he was planning to share the story soon, but had to fast-track the announcement after learning a tabloid would leak the news. He apologized to loved ones who learned about the diagnosis through the media, adding he's in a good place and feeling strong.
The third Venom movie held on to the top spot at the weekend box office.
We've come a long way, you and me.
The superhero film made $26.1 million U.S. across North America for a 10-day total of $90 million. The Wild Robot, meanwhile, moved back up to second place, adding another $7.6 million in ticket sales. And horror sequel Smile 2 dropped to third with $6.8 million.
Still to come, BCE is investing in the U.S. fiber internet market in a deal worth about $5 billion. Details after this short break.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Robots are being used to help speed up the construction of housing units.
CTV's Alex Carpa has more on the changing landscape in the building industry.
A robot known as Val 2.0 could be part of the answer of Canada's housing crisis. It's already operational and is working on a construction site near Kingston, Ontario.
It's going to be the first and largest neighborhood in Canada using an on-site robotics strategy for construction.
The robot, developed by Ontario's Horizon Legacy, has a robotic arm which makes concrete-like walls with speed and precision. Nyung says Val 2.0 is overtaking the manual, repetitive parts of the job.
She supports the team so that they can focus on, the brain work, thinking work.
According to Statistics Canada, labor productivity in the sector has dropped below levels seen in the 1990s. Nyung says the robot is not meant to replace workers.
What Val is doing is allowing us to keep the existing people that we have, but giving them the tools to do more.
The University of Manitoba is transforming the way students are taught construction education with the use of virtual reality and augmented reality technologies.
You can create a fully furnished room with all the alternatives for materials or furniture, and then you can switch them to different alternatives to see how it would look in real life.
The technology keeps teams of designers, contractors, consultants, and clients updated in real time, reducing the need for constant back and forth communication.
Everything can now be done in a virtual space where different employees can work together with different departments in a company as well as their clients.
In addition to this technology for construction education, the University of Manitoba's College of Nursing is also using VR headsets to teach nursing students real-life scenarios and a feeling of what it's like to be in an emergency room situation. Alex Carpa, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Factory workers at Boeing are set to vote on a new contract offer today. In its latest proposed contract, Boeing is offering pay raises of 38% over 4 years, along with ratification and productivity bonuses. Workers have been on strike since mid-September after rejecting an offer which would have seen a pay increase of 25% over 4 years. If the deal is accepted, workers will be back on the job November 12th.
BCE announced a major U.S. acquisition.
Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg has the latest in business.
Hello there, here are your business headlines. Telecom provider BCE plans to buy an internet provider in the US Pacific Northwest for $5 billion Canadian. Northwest Fiber does business as Ziply Fiber and has 1.3 million locations in Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. TD analyst Vince Valentini says we do not expect investors will like the decision not to cut debt instead. BCE, whose stock dropped 7% in morning trading, will pause dividend increases for the time being. The company is the parent of CTV and BNN Bloomberg. Oil rose after OPEC Plus agreed to delay its December production increase by 1 month. West Texas Intermediate crude gained more than 2% to trade around $71 US a barrel. RBC analysts say, quote, concerns that OPEC was poised to oversupply a fragile market have been weighing on sentiment. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
Coming up on CTV News at noon, a second chance to see Taylor Swift. A mother and daughter who missed out on the pop star shows in Austria are set to attend an upcoming concert in Toronto. Returning to one of our top stories, and where has the time gone? The race to the White House is in its final day, with the candidates making a last-ditch effort to sway voters who may still be undecided.
Both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris have busy schedules, aiming to maintain momentum before voters head to the polls tomorrow.
And I have this piece of glass here, but all we have really over here is the fake news, right? And to get me, somebody would have to shoot through the fake news. And I don't mind that so much, because I don't mind.
Trump is planning to hold 4 rallies in 3 states. He'll start the day in Raleigh, North Carolina, before making 2 stops in Pennsylvania. He'll end his campaign tonight in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
In one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we have momentum. It is on our side. Can you feel it?
Meanwhile, Kamala Harris will spend the last day of her campaign in Pennsylvania. The state's 19 electoral college votes could play a pivotal role in determining tomorrow's vote. Harris will be joined by celebrities Katy Perry, Lady Gaga, and Oprah Winfrey at today's rallies.
A mother and daughter from Ottawa were hoping to see Taylor Swift in Vienna this past summer, but the shows were canceled as the result of a terror plot.
Now they're getting a second chance to see the pop star. CTV's Caitlin Wilson surprised them with tickets this weekend.
When Stella Whitehouse showed up at the rink, she had no idea what was about to happen.
What's the key to your success?
I think just focusing on what you're doing and not giving up. You can't get.
She thought we were there to interview her ringette team about the sport and what it means to them. But what she didn't know was that I was about to surprise her.
Well, a guardian angel saw your story and was hoping to get you to the show, and you got 2 tickets to see Taylor Swift in Toronto on the 21st.
A second chance at a wish fulfilled. We first met Stella and her mom in Vienna, where they flew to see Taylor Swift live in August. But that was short-lived after Swift was forced to cancel her concerts after a terrorist plot came to light.
I made her a promise. I made her a promise in the streets of Vienna that we would go.
Welcome to the Eras Tour. And with the sold-out Eras Tour set to take over Toronto starting next week, Stella says she was losing hope of her dream becoming a reality.
When we were in Vienna, a lot of people saw your story, and somebody reached out to me saying they put in a good word to, let's just call them a very special group of people. And then we found out about 2 weeks ago that we were going to be able to get tickets, and it was amazing.
With no time to waste, the pair says they will once again make the friendship bracelets and hold on to the memories of the invisible string tying them to their favorite idol.
I think the realization's gonna hit later. I think it's just very overwhelming right now. There's a lot of people, a lot of cameras, but it's I'm forever grateful for it. It's very, very exciting.
Caitlin Wilson, CTV News.
And here's another live look at the city this afternoon. Before we go, we'll take one final look at the forecast. There is a chance of showers in some areas, but that chance is going to pretty much go away by tomorrow. There you go. There's a satellite radar. There's more of a chance north of us, but there are some showers that are sort of rolling through. So depending on where you are, an umbrella might be a pretty good idea. Right now, things are above seasonal. We're at 13 in Toronto, 11 in Oshawa, 14 in Waterloo. But again, further north, and I'm talking way north, it is much cooler, but we are still above seasonal. Looking at the long-range forecast, there's a chance of showers for today. That will pretty much end tomorrow. The high, though, 22 degrees for tomorrow. So again, one of those well above seasonal days. For Wednesday, there's a chance of showers. And then Thursday and Friday, we get back to seasonal. Sunny weather is expected. The weekend's looking good, but typical fall weather after Wednesday. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at our website, ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For all of us here at CTV News, have a pleasant afternoon. My name is Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Take care.